Ditron, welcome to the show, man. Good to see you. It's been a while.
It's good. It's good to see you also. It's been a minute since we went to the 600K views.
Yeah, you've been a traveling man though. You did BCon, you did all these other conferences. I guess before jumping to our questions, were these good for our listeners out there saying like, hey, should I go to the Bigger Pockets conference? Give us the 30-second takeaway. How was it?
It was great. It was huge. So you were able to talk to a lot of people. You were able to find partners, friends, money people. So if you're looking for someone and you're looking for something in particular, you can definitely find something there that will give you an advantage in your portfolio for sure.
All right. Well, and we know you as the short-term rental guy. How prevalent were short-term rentals at that conference? Like, were there specific groups on that, specific sessions?
Yeah, there was sessions. It was quite big. Obviously, the community grew in 2021, so now it's become a huge thing for everyone to talk about. But a large piece, I would say, up to almost 1/3 of the piece was short-term rental focus.
Oh, wow, that's a big piece. All right, so let's start with, hey, how did you just get started with real estate, right? I know you have, you have Rome to Rome, which we'll get into. It's been several years since you've owned that or created that, I should say. You had a very good job with the Air Force. You had a very good job in the supply chain. Why real estate? Where did this plop onto your radar?
Uh, VA loans, just like everyone else. Um, the ability to buy multifamily buildings for very expensive money with nothing down. And I was one of those good people that also got a check back at closing. So it was one of those that kind of snowballed you into buying more. And you start to see like the ability to make lasting income and lasting like wealth through it. So I started to go there and it kind of snowballed.
All right. Mark, we have not put any focus on finding people who've leveraged a VA loan, but I feel it's been a good chunk of our last guests here in the last, call it 5-6 months.
Yes, for sure. Military's representing.
There you
Yeah.
go. All right. So we find out about the VA loan. You say, holy crap, we can buy, a large multifamily building and actually get money back at closing. So where'd you buy your first building?
Lakeview.
All right. So, and did you house hack it? You lived in it? You leveraged the
Yes.
VA? You
Yes.
still own that guy?
Yes.
All right. And what timeline is here? When was this?
I bought that property in 2021.
All right.
No, 2020, actually. Take it back.
All right. So in the middle of COVID, you said, screw it, let's go buy a building here.
Yeah, I got really lucky. At the end of the year, they had the prices up super high. COVID hit, they dropped the price by like $200,000. And I jumped in, and then the value jumped back up to like $600,000-700,000 as soon as I closed on the loan. It was quite perfect timing. I wish I would have bought more houses at that time frame.
Yeah, no, I had a similar story. And then with flips, like you're always working 9 to 12 months in advance. So we're, on a lot of these, we did our plan and the plan was fine, but then we were a huge beneficiary of the market, that tailwind just pushing it where you thought you would make X and instead you made a multiple of X because just the market, nothing smart you did. It's
No,
also the beneficiary of timing there. So, all right, how do we fall into this short-term, midterm rental space though? Right? Because it's kind of complicated. You're in Chicago. It's not the easiest city to work in. Where did this hit on your radar?
I actually, when I left the military, I moved to Chicago for graduate school. And just like everyone else, I got an apartment in Bucktown, way above my means. And I'm like, how do I deal with this? 2 bedroom, 2 bath. And at that point, I just started to realize that maybe it's renting out my second bedroom and my second bathroom would make me money. And that was in 2015, and started renting it out, made like $1,500 a month off the Airbnb, just my second bedroom. It's like, okay, there's proof of concept here. So from there, I kind of just scaled it.
All right. So if you don't mind me, what was your rent? You're making 1,500 off that. What was your rent that you owed the
1850.
landlord? Was it?
Oh, nice.
1850.
Oh, this is great.
Yes.
Any incidents, right? Because that's one of the negative people say, like, oh, you're renting out a room, it's awkward. Like anything looking back on it was like, this was a pretty big sacrifice.
No, the guests normally stay in their room. They don't really talk to them much. So when you're in the house, they are very cordial. And so they don't really do much. So they stay in their room and you're completely fine. So I found it as amazing. I did it again. Once I left Bucktown, I got rented another place in Lincoln Park and I just doubled down. And me and my girlfriend at the time, I convinced her to do it with me. So we rented out another tutu. Rent was up to like 2,300 and rented out a second bedroom, second bathroom, for I think $1,800 a month. So it's like we paid $400 for rent. It was amazing.
In the heart of Lincoln Park. That's awesome.
Any issues you run into with the building, with the landlord you actually had the
No.
lease with? Anything there?
It was something that it was wrote in. It was something that was already acknowledged in the beginning. It's like they were more okay with it because I was living there and I wasn't just Airbnb in the building that I was renting for someone else. So because I stayed there, they were more okay with it.
Were those two buildings, were they condo buildings or were they more apartment buildings? What was the setup?
They were apartment buildings.
Okay. So it's a little easier. You don't have an HOA, you don't got a different owner next door. Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah. Is
So
there the whole Airbnb arbitrage, right? Like you see that it's like, cause it's the free way, it's the easy way. They lure every 22-year-old in the world to like, hey, you can make money here in this. No, it's like wholesaling on steroids. I feel like everyone's just pushing it. Is there actually any opportunity at all there? Or is it just a situation like yours where it can help offset rent?
Yeah, at the time it was better to offset rent. If you are smart and able to get someone to say yes, you can make money off of it, but you will also have to be able to negotiate like terms with the landlord to get a free month because it's going to take you a month and a half to get it up and operational. So if you're hitting rent at that time and you're still trying to get it up and running, it's a little hard. So that hurts. And the fact you have to buy furniture will kill you. So if you have a way of getting cheap furniture and a way for your landlord to give you a month free, you can definitely make it work, but it's a little harder if you don't.
All right. And we're going to touch on that furnishing in detail here in a little bit. But let's go back now to the Lakeview property. So you bought this, you've already been exposed to, renting by the room. Did you have it in your mind when you bought this property? All right, let's try, similar strategy or renting out some of these units as well on a short-term basis?
It was renting out a unit. My wife had already got to the point that she doesn't want to rent out her own private room anymore. So we got to the point like, okay, if we buy a house that can be short-term rental, we can just go in it that way and buy it with that concept. But even though we underwrote it as a long-term rental, the short-term rental made sense in that area.
Yep. Do you mind sharing some of those numbers? What was the long-term rent? What was the, how much were you making a short-term rent? And then we'll back in some of those factors as far as, utilities, the furnishing, et cetera.
Okay. On average, the Airbnb makes around, it's a 2-1, so it's not a large unit. On average, with the low season, it makes around $3,200 to $3,800 a month. As a long-term renter, we're down to the $1,900 range. So you're making a pretty good number.
Yeah, so like a 50% bump, right? So that sounds great. Let's back out now. You're paying utilities, right? You're paying, internet, whatever else you have to do. So you're taking a small hit there. It sounds like we're still coming well on top. A 2-1, what does that cost to furnish? I know it's an open-ended question, but can you just provide some goalposts for myself and the listeners?
If you have no way of getting something cheaper, it's going to cost you between $8,000 to $10,000. If you do have some sort of a way of getting it cheaper, you can get it cheaper than that, though. The only reason why I can do it so well in Chicago is the fact that I can get cheaper furniture because I started to pull some strings in the right places to get it for cheaper.
Well, it sounds like you got a guy, man. But
yes,
but
you got to have a guy always.
Coming from me not being experienced in furnishing something like this, like to me, I think, man, you could go buy a affordable bedroom set at Value City Furniture or something like that for a couple grand, and then some towels. Like, what are we missing?
I mean, it has to stick out. So Airbnbs in the city are definitely getting better. So it comes into feature walls now, even if you're renting it, mind you, feature walls in the house, putting effort into making a room look a little unique, adding things in where a guest would like it. So that's the dining room table, the couches, the TVs, the bedroom sets, and like every guest will sleep on your bed. So if you get a cheap bed, they will notice. So as simple it is just to get a Costco bed, they will say something and you start getting bad reviews because of it.
So feature walls, I think if I heard you correctly.
Yeah.
What does that mean?
If you can do any kind of wallpaper, you can do any wood features, anything or painting to make some of the walls in the room stick out a little bit more. a grass wall, something like that. You have neon signs, anything of that nature that would make your first photo pop out in comparison to anything else. That will make your listing stick out and people will stop scrolling past your unit.
Okay. I want to go a little deeper on this because there's something we never talked about. So what was like for you the bare minimum threshold of like a mattress? Does it have to be like you got to come with Tom
Hey,
Brady or like what's the
nothing
minimum
too
like?
crazy, but it needs to be memory foam at the least.
Okay, that's a good guideline.
So you can do a hybrid, but make sure that it's not an all-spring mattress. And some people are iffy, so they don't like firm and they don't like too soft. So it's better to stay on the firmer side because more people complain about soft mattresses. But it's most definitely putting money in the mattress. It doesn't have to be thousands of dollars, but at least hundreds.
Best practice into sheets or bedding or anything like that you recommend?
Everyone wants to tend towards white. I would not go for white. It just causes more issues. I know everyone wants to make it more hotel-like, but having white sheets has a tendency to cause you way more trouble.
Okay. Let's stick down this path for a little bit. What about just kitchen utensils? Like what is expected here? You need plates, wine opener, pizza cutter, call it a day. Like what are some of the things that I'm not thinking about?
That's one tool for a single guy.
Yeah. I literally put everything. So my first short-term rental, obviously I lived there. And when I made the first one that I didn't live there, everything that was in my kitchen, I put in the Airbnb. So they had pizza cutters, garlic presses, everything, rolling pins. So they had at least $70 to $80 worth of just utensils, not including pots and pans. So, and people noticed that. And they're like, I can come into your kitchen, I can cook something. I don't have one pot, one pan. So spend as much as you can. Go into a store and you see like the rack full of like material in your house for your kitchen and just buy it all. Even if you don't think you can use it, someone else will use it. And it only cost you $3 to $4 to have it. So my budget for utensils is closer to $70, $80 just for small things.
So when you're living there and you're doing it room by room, some of these things are things you might already have as an occupant in the home. So you could absorb that cost a little easier. But when you're going from scratch, then yeah, it sounds like you almost have to think about what every mother might need in case the kid gets hurt type scenario or any sort of meal that might want to be prepped. So I guess I can see where that could get more expensive. Talk to me about bathrooms, towels. Like, is there a certain amount? Like, is there, tell us anything about the bathroom.
You should have one for every guest and extra. So if you have a 2-bedroom place, you should have 4 towels at the minimum, but more than likely it's better to have 5 to 6.
Okay. Hey, real quick, like taking one step back, you have a typical 2-bed, 1-bath layout, right? I'm picturing in Chicago, you have like the front room going in the living room, the 2 beds on the side with the bath and the kitchen in the back there. When you advertise that on Airbnb, are you saying it sleeps 4? Or are you doing a day bed in the front room area saying this sleeps 6? Like, because you see some and it's like, I try to book some for my family. It's like, oh, this will fit all 6 of us. And I'm like, Jesus.
It's a 1-bedroom.
Yeah. Like,
it is.
What do you mean this will fit 6 of us?
Heads in beds. The comment everyone uses. It's you get heads in beds, but you get a worse tenant in your place for the night because they're trying to cram people in for a cheap price. I normally stick away from beds, sofa beds, and anything like that for the most part. There's only a few properties that I own that I do have a sofa bed in them, but it's not worth the headache to try to get 6 people to cram in your 2-bedroom apartment. And it also creates issues with your other tenants and your next door neighbors if they're trying to cram too many people in a small space.
Okay. So rule of thumb, just stick to, hey, like this is how I would treat like a long-term rental, like 4 people or whatever it is. Like, don't try to jam in that extra. It's not worth the hassle.
Yes. If anything, maybe a bunk bed in a room might be worth it. If the room is big enough to accept a bunk bed, do like a full over a queen or a twin over a full. Other than that, that's only one more occupancy, but I wouldn't go much higher than that.
Okay. Talk to us about also, I don't want to say like dummy proofing the house, but are there extra steps you need to take compared to a long-term rental, whether it be, little foam things under the furniture, right? Because most of us don't furnish the place when we have long-term rentals. So there are other little things that we're not considering that we would need to consider.
you will need to make sure you have smart everything possible. Smart locks that integrates into systems. First thing, you will make sure that you have thermostats that are smart that you can change on your phone at any time, because some guests really don't know how to change your thermostat sometimes. Making sure that you do have like the sliders underneath your floors, underneath your dining room table, because people will slide them. And our table in our dining room is probably 300 pounds. And if you slide it across the floor, it will destroy my 100-year-old floors. Making sure that everything that could be asked is already there, from a issue with they can't find where the trash can is, you already have something set up for that. So I know one of the bigger issues in Chicago is that the trash can's in the alley, and sometimes it's hard for them to get to the alley. Sometimes I had to go to the garage, and you don't want your Airbnb guests going to your garage. So making sure when you're buying it, and if you already have it, you think about this, but if you're buying it, thinking about this, like the small things where the guests would need to utilize this, and it's not easy for them to do so.
Ease of doing business.
Right. Yeah. What are some other examples? Like that's one I would have never thought of. What are some other, give us either some of the FAQs or the, you're teaching your class or you're consulting someone. What are some of those obvious ones that, come up over and over again?
Ice. It's weird. Everyone wants ice. A lot of people don't have ice machines in their freezer. If you don't have ice, make sure you have ice trays. Things like that. When it's summertime in Chicago, everyone and their mom is going to ask for ice. And they are coming for Cubs games and things like that. So they are drinking. So having an ice maker itself or having an ice machine or trays is like a big deal, because you will be asked sooner or later about it.
I love it. I love that nugget. Another one I would have never known. Mark, I love these
Yeah.
ones that you and I don't know much about.
Yeah.
Yeah. So you mentioned garage though. How do you handle parking? Do you usually allow them garage access? Do you have them
No.
park on the street? Like talks about parking, because that seems like that could be a mess.
Because there's liability, because your other tenants are inside of the garage also. I don't want an Airbnb guest touring someone else's car. So I do give them access to parking on the street. And if there's a parking pass, I'll give them a parking pass, a daily parking pass, something of that nature. But I would never let them go into the garage. You will be able to rent for hire if you could, if that was able to do that. But with Chicago's layout, with you having long-term and short-term together, it makes it a little bit more complicated.
Yeah. So 2-car garage, you wouldn't split it, one for the long-term, one for the short-term. You would make the short-term go on the street, and you're just giving them like the 383 pass, like where they got to go up and down and find the permitted spot.
Basically, or you can park on Ashland and it's free. So I would just give them that, or I would rather rent out my second garage spot to someone that lives in the area and have them charge them $150 a month for that second garage spot.
Got it. And that won't, it sounds like you still had success without this. That's one of the things that I would have thought, like, man, like if I'm showing up to Chicago for a Cubs game, I want parking. But you're saying like you're still in a good spot there.
No one has complained, knock on wood. No one has complained with the fact that they're being forced to park on the street. One of my newest property does have dedicated parking, which is amazing, which is completely hard to find. And it's carport parking, so it's not really an issue too much.
Yeah, it's nice.
But yeah, it's definitely something you do not want them going into your garage.
So I imagine a lot of people are flying into town or coming to town and they're just Ubering over to your place. So I guess when I really think through this, it can't be that big of a deal, I guess.
70% of my occupancy, my guests have cars.
Oh, really?
Yeah. And it mostly probably
from
because of the fact that
coming in from whatever, like, right? Like just all the Midwest.
So I get a lot of cars.
Okay. All right. So that's what you get for assuming. But back to some of the things you're putting in the house, and I've stayed at places where they have puzzles or they have kids' toys, or places by water will have some play toys. Like, how far are you going into trying to entertain them while they're in your place with puzzles and stuff like that?
We have games for kids, even though the units that we have are not geared towards kids as much, because it's not a big enough place for them. So we don't get many people with kids, but we do have games for adults. So all of the adult card games that you can get. We do give extra amenities to entice people, for sure. That would be not normally what you would get in Airbnb. So we have a tendency to put in a little bit more than most.
All right. Can you give some nuggets? What can you give away? What are some ways to entice guests?
Yeah. tanning bed.
A hot tub is nice. It's some of the things are just smaller. I put a pizza in my freezer for every guest.
Oh, that's cool.
So
Got it.
every guest that comes in gets their own pizza just in case they can't order Uber Eats for that night, or they can't figure out food that night, or they're just too intoxicated to get food. And they open up the freezer and there's a free pizza in the freezer.
See, I would take advantage of that. You're reading my mind now.
Yeah.
All right. No bottle of wine, no champagne though, for the liability reasons.
No, liability instantly.
Yeah. We actually, my wife and I had one. This was pretty recent too. We went, I don't remember where we were. I was like, man, we should just get drunk and do something stupid and go back on the owner here, right?
Yeah. Yeah, that's the last thing you want to do is put alcohol in your face.
Oh, that's awesome.
All right. So this is awesome, Ditron, but I want to take a step back now. You know, you did this with your 3 unit that you were owner occupied. Can we talk a little about when you can and can't do short-term rentals, right? So let's start with the owner occupied, and then we'll move out to, hey, when you don't own the unit, this is the percent, yada, yada, yada. But let's start with, I own a 2 unit, 3 unit, 4 unit. I'm living in the unit. What am I legally allowed to do? Can you talk a little about, and then just the process with the city, with the permit and just the application, et cetera?
Okay. So if you own less than 4 units or less, you can only Airbnb out the unit that you live in. That is the rules. Most people have a thought, if I live inside of the building, I'm able to Airbnb out one of the units in my building, but that's not the case. So you're only able to Airbnb out the unit that you personally live in. If you are in a 5 or higher building, and 5 residential buildings, because mixed use doesn't count. So 5 residential unit building, you do not have to live in the unit, and you can Airbnb it out without a problem. Permitting is different. The city for 4 and under, you show that you live there. They ask for your driver's license, and if the address is on your driver's license, ask for other type of bills and things like that. But if you're doing 5 and over, it doesn't matter. You just show that you're applying for it, and that you want it there, and there's not other Airbnbs in the city in that same building, and you have no problem. One of the other pieces is that only 25% of the building, or 6 units, which one comes first, can be put towards Airbnb. So if you have a 24 unit building, 6 units of that building can be an Airbnb. Nothing higher. But if you have a 4 unit building and you live in it, then you can Airbnb out one of the units, not all of the units. But if you have a 5 unit, you only can Airbnb one of the units. So that is something that people don't recognize, and they get themselves into scenarios where someone else in the building is already doing Airbnb in a unit, and they are the second person attempting, and they get denied.
All right. So to be clear then, I have a 3 unit building. I'm living in it. And, I'm a house hacker. I can rent out my unit. I move out, I buy another building. It's only 3 units. I don't live there. Therefore, I'll never hit the 25%, right? I'm gonna, if I rent out one, I'm at 33%. I'm over the threshold. Right. So you need to have a 4 unit building to be at that threshold, or 4 unit or higher, right?
It's for you not to live there, it needs to be higher now. That's a new rule.
For you not to live there, it's got to be the 5 unit or higher.
Basically, you have to be in the commercial space to do it. 5 residential units.
Got it.
So that's what makes it complicated here.
Yeah. So and then the application process, you go in, I know you were saying you need that bank statement with the same address or the driver's license or whatever it is. Mm-hmm. And then, is this days, weeks? How quick is it to be like, hey, you are now approved. Here's your number.
Days.
Okay. So then the next step is you actually go and list this thing. Once that happens, you're able to list on Airbnb.
Yes. If you want to list it for more than 32 days, you can list it on Airbnb at any time. So that's considered midterm rental space. But yeah, anything below 32 days, you would need to have the license to post. And that's in the city of Chicago. That is one piece that also needs to be said. Not once you're outside of the city of Chicago, the rules do change.
Okay. Mark, you look like you were biting to ask a question there.
Yeah, I have a question, but then I just want to point out episode 143 we had with Jessica Ryan from KSN Law. She talked about a lot of legality stuff to make sure you dance around. So just reference that for other people that are more interested in going deeper. My question though was, Is there anything on the application process that are gotchas for people, or they fill it out wrong, they get denied, or if they they have to make sure all the parking tickets are paid? Or is there anything like that? Or is it pretty simple? Is it pretty straightforward and just admin?
If you have more than one unit, so that means you have multiple 5-unit buildings that you're doing in, you need an operator's license. The operator's license changes a few things. So if you do have parking tickets and things like that, you will have to pay that. But if you only have one unit, there's less gotchas in the application. Most people get hit when they're confused by when they're saying, do you live in the building or live in a unit? There's a box you have to check yes on. And if you misread it, you are either lying or you are just misrepresenting what it is. So there's a question that will say, yes, I live in the unit, not the building.
Got it. All right. So this is all really good stuff. This is how you get up and running, some furnishing nuggets. Let's talk about underwriting, right? Like you brought up an example where you're making, in the low season, 3,500 a month against what would be 18 regular. So it sounds like even after you offset all the costs, it still makes economic sense. How does someone go about predicting that, right? For the short term, like, hey, I'm going to get there. There's AirDNA, but like you as an expert, like how do you help someone just say, pay for the year? Like I would expect X or.
When you look at it from the year, it's definitely hard to understand it. Like Chicago's a bell curve and it's skewed to the right. So a majority of your bookings will come in the summertime. Once it hits December, January, February, you're completely dead. That's when most people change their models to midterm to deal with those 3 months that are pretty poor. But in the summertime, you're upwards of $10,000 a month, and in the wintertime, you're at low of $1,800 to $2,000. So it is most definitely, when you calculate it across the whole year, you're cash flowing $3,000, but in January and February, you're negative cash flow, if not just breaking even. So when they are underwriting it, make sure that they're using the values per month. So they have their top line and they have their breakdown for out of 100, this is how much money I will make in this month. And making sure that you are comfortable with what negative factors that you will run into in the month of January and February. Those are the weakest months of the year.
Okay. And just something as simple as AirDNA.
AirDNA will give you top line data. They will give you more than what you need, but you will need to start to do analysis outside of that. So I do have my spreadsheets like everything else, and it breaks it down. I use their bell curve to say that this is their seasonality, and then break that out into percentages, and then saying, hey, AirDNA say I will make $50,000, but spread that out over 12 months. How I'm only going to make $2,000 in January, but I'll make $10,000 in July type scenario. So you need to look at it from a chart in that way.
Got it. Okay, that makes sense. Are there any other factors, because in the long-term game, right? Like not every 2-1 is the same. Some have a formal dining room. Some are, 4 rooms. Some are 5 rooms. Like, are there any other, anything else you can point our listeners to, like, oh, well, yes, that's a good comp, but it has X, Y, Z and you don't. Like, what are some things that we need to consider when we're looking at comps or AirDNA data?
Close to the train lines and close to anything public. The Cub Stadium, the Sox Stadium, close to the Loop, close to the West Loop. It's like places like that. Those are the desirable places. And amenities. A lot of people are not thinking about amenities of the property. And what can you give? Are you giving them backyard access to enjoy the backyard, or is that going only to your long-term tenants? Those things can separate yourself, because a lot of people don't give backyard access to most of these multifamily homes.
Okay. What about pets?
That one is a hard one. If you have good floors, I would say maybe. If you have the old floors like most of us do, pets is a hard no.
Okay.
But
do you have to allow ESAs?
Yes.
Okay.
How do you screen against fake ESAs? Is there any sort of proof of?
The thing is that, again, that's also against ADA rules for you to ask for proof. Yeah, I know.
They don't have to provide anything, huh?
No. If they say it, you have to take them at their word.
Wow. That's crazy.
Yeah.
I
So
guess
that
you go check in a hotel, they don't make you they don't ask for a
prove
doctor's
it.
note, I guess, right? I guess that
Yeah.
makes sense.
So that's a bit of a struggle. So if they say that their pet is an emotional support pet or a service animal, you kind of have to deal with it from there. And it's not much you can do about it. But there are people that most of them are genuine. They don't really lie about if they are or not emotional support animals. And they'll ask you from the very beginning, before they book, I have a pet, do you allow them? And most of the time I will say no. I always say no, but most of the time they ask, they don't really try to sneak one in.
Okay. All right. So I got a lot of questions. I want to go back to, you mentioned doing the midterm rentals to float you through some of the slower, seasonal months.
Mhm.
Are there ever opportunities where midterm just makes more sense than the short term? Just in
Uh,
general, like, hey, like I'm near a hospital, like this is furnished finders all day. Like talk to us about that threshold.
so I have properties outside of Chicago also. One of the properties in Pittsburgh, it's been rented out for 7 months now. And they are willing to pay $4,000 a month for a 2-1 on a $200,000 mortgage. It's insane numbers. Um, I would take them all day. So there
Yeah,
are some scenarios where it makes sense.
the 2% rule there.
Yeah, it's
Not
insane numbers. And like she just extended into next year. And the fact that I am getting $4,000 a month in December is insane.
what is this? Is this traveling nurse? Like, well, who's
Yes.
okay.
So this one in Pittsburgh is close to multiple hospitals. So the hospitals themselves reached out to me on Airbnb saying that we need to place our nurses into your units. And I'm like, yes, this is great, and you can stay. And they basically start to stay in your unit. So the big person on the top sorts them out, and then they put a person into your unit.
So did you find that person because you were marketing for it, or did they call off the short term and you negotiated a midterm? How did that go
No,
out?
they actually didn't. Well, some of them will negotiate a rate, but this one they did not negotiate at all. My numbers at the time fell into their threshold of what they're allowing. I think their max was like 4,500, what I found out in the end. So I should have raised my rates a little bit more. Um, but they basically I was in their numbers. They didn't complain. They booked 4 months on Airbnb directly, and then they just continued to extend on the platform.
For long-term investors, they listen to this and they think, man, it's a lot of work. I hate having 110 every 4 years, let alone 110 every 6 days. But they get turnover and so forth. They look at it very different than operators you have in your space. Is there ever a strategy that you put it on there for short term and midterm and just kind of see whatever hits depending on what you're doing, or is this strategically like only like, hey, it's November 1, I'm going midterm and if someone short term comes along, do you market both at one time? Tell me a little more about that strategy. What's best practice?
So when you're purchasing the property, if it is in one of those areas, that's your, and those are your avatars. That's who you should be pushing it towards from the very beginning. If you're beside a hospital, close to a hospital, you should push it to that in the very beginning. If you do have a property that is in like a flex space that is close to amenities, close to things, but it's also not too far from hospital, you can do both strategies. You just have to be cognizant that your calendar is not open as far. So most people have a calendar open for 12 months. And then I get reservations currently as right now for May 2024. So if I wanted to put in a midterm rental, I can't because that calendar is open so far, someone's already booked it. But some people will only leave their calendar open for 2 to 3 months at a time and let that book in with Airbnb bookings and then wait for the midterm person to come in and then book off a longer term.
Yeah. Ditron, let's talk a little about your systems, right? You have something in Pittsburgh. You're managing stuff for others all over the globe, I believe. I think you're international. How? Right? Like that sounds very hard. Like I don't even leave the north side of Chicago because I want things to be simple and easy for me. Like just talk about finding the handyman, finding the appropriate cleaners, keeping eyes on the place, tenant interaction. Like how do you make this so like, you can still go out and enjoy dinner with your wife and go have beers and whatnot?
Um, so everything revolves around your property management system. That can be many of them. Everyone talks about Hosty, from hospitable to there's a few more out there. That is like your number one thing that you have to have. You got to make sure that it works well for you, but everything revolves around your PMS system. And from there, you can connect your cleaners, you can connect your handyman. So when things are coming through the pipeline, it's directing to the right people, and you're a little bit hands off. The PMS system also will message guests on automated messaging, and anything that it does not do, majority of the PMS now have ChatGPT into it. And you just click a button and it answers the question for you based upon what you've said in the past.
All right. And I'm assuming each one of these have a playbook, right? Like you have something there for your guests, like, hey, this is how this works, right? Just,
Yeah.
you know, I just know it from the guest perspective. Every time I walk into one, it's they've tried to dummy proof it with their FAQs. So I don't have to reach out to them.
Basically, if you have complicated things, sometimes it's better to have like a little QR code, a little thing beside the item that's completely like hard to figure out. One of them being my dishwasher. My dishwasher in one of my properties is very complicated. So put a QR code beside it and have a video of how to run it, a YouTube video, and it goes directly to the YouTube video. And they don't have to call you, they don't have to message, they just scan the QR code on their phone.
Man, that's great. What else? What are some things that I'm not thinking of here? Like, I guess give me a lesson learned. Something like, oh crap, now I got to dummy proof this for the next person.
Yeah, you got to have some mistakes you made out of all this.
Oh yes. Keys. You should never give your guest a key. Keyless entry is required for basically any Airbnb. And if you give them a key, you are a ticking time bomb, honestly, because it's going to happen sooner or later. The guest is either going to take the key with them on accident or not put it back in the place where the next guest is supposed to pick it up from. Or the fact that they can come back because it's a hard-coded number on your key box. They will come back and open your key box, and now your property is less secure. So keys is your number one thing. But with that being said, you also need to have keys on site just in case something happens. My smart lock had a deciding factor to not work. The guest, it's like 2 a.m. The guest is like, I can't get inside. And it's now you need a fail safe. The fail safe itself is a physical key. And a lot of people will not do that from the very beginning. And I've heard horror stories where guests have broken windows to get inside the Airbnbs and they just leave the window broken. So making sure that there's a physical key that the guest never touches on site at every Airbnb that you have.
That's good. What about you get a complaint, right? Things don't always go smoothly, even with the best intentions. You know, when you're doing long-term rentals, you can usually smooth it out with the tenant. You know, you can talk through it. You're at the mercy of reviews, though.
Yes.
Right? Like you live and die by reviews. You need to make sure that they're leaving the most positive review possible. Talk to us a little about just how you navigate those waters, right? Let's say you've messed up. You've had that happen. Someone can't get in at 2 a.m. It's not the best experience, you know, and you know it from your end. What do you do? Like how do you help just protect the reputation?
So this situation happened at Bigger Pockets conference. I was at the conference at the bar drinking, and I got a message from the guest saying that, oh, we checked in, but the house isn't clean. And it's like, whoa, the cleaner didn't show up, didn't clean the place. It's completely dirty from the last guest. It was a same-day turnover. And I don't know if the cleaner just missed it or not. But now you have to go into a how do I fix it mode. Like when it comes to a cleaning, you can either tell the guest to wait for the cleaner, or you just refund their money. That's generally something I don't want to do because that's a harsh scenario of like when the place is clean, it's kind of hard to deal with that. But if it's just other smaller issues, it is that be apologetic from the very beginning. It is a hospitality business. It's not just real estate anymore. It's hospitality. So you need to be apologetic to make sure that they understand that you made a mistake. There's a mistake being made, and you have to take ownership of that mistake. And you understand that it's causing an inconvenience to their vacation. First thing. And then you start to fix the issues. I generally don't want to give money back as much as I possibly can. If that is a credit for a next stay, or you buy them dinner, something like that, you give them a Uber Eats gift card, whatever you need to do, try not to give them cash. Because it complicates things from a accounting standpoint, it creates issues. And just from a standpoint of like, if I issue you back money for a day, which is what most people want, In some cities, a day is $85. In some scenarios, a one day is $1,000. So you don't want to give them back a credit for a day. So finding something that will smooth it over, normally something food related or a free night in the future, is the better option to go.
Well, tell us how that story went. What was it? Did the cleaner miss it? Were they complaining? Like,
They missed it. The booking was last minute. The cleaner thought she had time, and the person booked at like 4 p.m. They wanted to check in, and that's after check-in time. So the place should be clean, but the cleaner thought that no one's gonna book because it's too late, and that someone did. So they basically left it uncleaned.
oh no. Did they hurry up
Yeah.
and get over there and clean it? Like, how'd that did it?
At that point, that one is, you've gone too far down the rabbit hole. You kind of have, it was a 1 day reservation. So that's already, it's not as bad. So because it was a 1 day, it was just better for me to return their money and take the hit. There's nothing else you can do there. You're screwed.
Yeah.
Now, can you return that money and they still go and leave a 1-star review, or how do you work that out with them?
That is a great question. Yes, they can. They can give it back. You can give them the money back and they still give you a review that is poor. The only thing you can do is trying to be nice about it so they feel sympathetic, that they know that the problem happened, but they know that you had to do as much as you can as fast as you could. So they feel sympathetic to a point that they don't want to give you that 1-star review. So if you are not sympathetic from the beginning and you don't understand their issue, you're basically definitely going to get that 1-star. But if I'm trying to be nice, trying to be apologetic as much as possible, then you are able to make sure that you don't get as low as a 1.
Nice. All right, let's talk about tax implications. Right, that was one of the things that caught my eye. You know, it sounds like for those who are not real estate professionals, you still work in the full-time W-2 or whatever, there's huge benefits here to going the Airbnb route. Can you give us the 101 here?
So the things, I'm not a tax professional, so I will start with that always. But for your Airbnbs, if you have a single family Airbnb, when you have mixed use, it's complicated. So Chicago's market, when it comes to the tax implications, are harder because you're using long-term and short-term at the same time. But if you have a single family home or a condo that is used for Airbnb, you are able to, and you are the number one person working in that Airbnb, that Airbnb. You don't have a property manager, you have a cleaner, but you're the person that's replying to messages, things like that. You are able to use your depreciation, your everything that normally goes against passive income. It starts to go over into your active income because you're the active person in your real estate, in this real estate business that you're having. So that's a huge part. And that's why a lot of people get at least one Airbnb in their portfolio if they're not considered a real estate professional, because they have the ability to use depreciation against their active income.
Got it. So let me break this down in real simple terms so I understand. You know, and this happened to me when I had my foot in both camps. I was like, oh, all this real estate should help. It didn't, right? So let's say, you know, you got some nice white collar job, you're making very good income. You go out and buy a rental property, think it's going to help with taxes, and it does to an extent. But the expenses will never go and can never be used to offset your actual salary, your W-2. Right? You can show a loss. You can show it'll help offset some of your other passive income streams you might have, but it's never going to help combat the actual earned income from, you know, said company that you work for. What you're saying though is the actual losses and the depreciation in this scenario from the short term will transpire over to that accounting side. They will go and actually go off against your active earned income.
It is easier. So the real estate professional status is easier to obtain if you are running a short-term rental. If the 500 hours,
so you now qualify for.
Correct. So if you are the number one person running your Airbnb, that is solely an Airbnb, not a mixed-use building, now that does give you the loophole that you need to become a real estate professional and use passive losses against active income.
That's huge. That is huge because you got a lot of like.
So you should cost seg like all these too, then, right?
Correct. That is the things that we do.
Okay. Cost seg Kev, you and cost seg Kev got to go have lunch together. Got some business for you.
Yeah,
All right.
that's huge. That is huge because you got a lot of like.
So you should cost seg like all these too, then, right?
Yes.
Got some business for you. So, all right. Thank you for clarifying that. Is there anything else we should hit on with taxes?
It's just definitely, if you want to go this route and using short-term rentals as a mode of helping your tax liability, make sure you are the one that's doing the most. Do not have a property manager. Once you have a property manager, that person is going to be the person working the most in your rental instead of you.
Got it. That makes sense. All right. So, Ditron, this has been great. You've covered a ton of stuff here. What's next for you? Like, rumors have it you have a conference coming in the spring. Is that accurate here in Chicago?
Yes. It's great to be able to announce it on your podcast. We are having a short-term rental conference in Chicago, March 17th through 19th, 2024. And it's focusing on new people getting into short-term rentals, learning how to get it up and running and operate it. And for the experienced and expert owner operators, we're making sure that they're able to increase their revenues and how they're able to elevate and innovate their short-term rentals so they can go from $100,000 a year to $150,000 to $180,000. I don't want to keep it out. So like there's a lot of people in the real estate space that do need this type of information also. So it's also going to be meant for agents, for property managers, for cost segregation studies and the whole nine. So anyone that's in the real estate space can take advantage of the conference. It's not just for people that want to start an Airbnb.
There's a lot of information out there that people can get for free on YouTube and so forth around short-term space. Where would you suggest people go or stay away from when they're trying to get their first one off the ground? And I think you even offer some sort of course as well too.
Yes, I do offer a 12-week course that will help a person starting and getting it up and running. I definitely would stay away from some of the Facebook pages. It will really cause you a lot of headaches because everyone is pessimistic and they are looking at it from a skewed lens sometimes. Just like everyone says that Chicago is a hard market to do real estate in, but if you live here, you know how to navigate it. So once you learn that how to work it, you're good, but definitely I would stay away from some of the forums where people are giving just pure opinion and not much facts.
Mm-hmm.
All right, cool. So we'll put your information in there definitely in the show notes for people that want to reach out to you directly about the 12-week class. So I might.
Yes.
And do we also have a link for the conference yet, or is it too early?
No, it's called STRinnovate.com.
All right. We'll link to that as well.
All right. Awesome. All right. You guys ready to wrap?
I'm ready.
All right. First question. What's your competitive advantage? How have you been able to do all of this in the short-term space while others wish they could?
I mean, I started it early. I did Airbnb before Airbnb was like the huge thing in the market. The fact that you're able to start it from arbitrage to rent by the room to anything like that. It's like you have a all-encompassing notion of how the market works in your area, especially in Chicago and more other cities. So it's just, I have more skin in the game and more time.
All right. I know you prepared, but I'm going to switch this up on you a little bit. So Ditron, what is the one piece of advice you would tell someone looking to do their first Airbnb here in Chicago?
I would tell them not to only look in large cities. Everyone has a tendency to go to the large cities and they're very saturated and they're hard to get in from a price point. There are some cities that it makes more sense to go into from a cash flow perspective. It could be the same as a large city. So people should be looking at where do you go every summertime with your friends, and where do you go when you're a kid with your family? Start to look in those markets, and some of those are the smaller markets that are able to accomplish the same cash flow as a larger city.
Awesome. What do you do for fun?
I travel. I know everyone says that, but I truly travel. I leave here in about a week, and I will be in Peru and Argentina for the next 5 months. So when I go, I go.
Nice. We got Mr. 4-hour work week here. Yeah, I like it.
Yeah, nice work, man. Congrats.
Thank you.
So, all right, give us a good book, podcast, or self-development activity that you'd recommend to our listeners.
To get into distance, Airbnb space when you're not there, Who Not How is a great book because you have a tendency to want to do everything yourself. And when I'm in a different country, I have no ability to go over to the house and snake to sink. So you have to make sure that you have your people on staff and on hand to do it for you.
I love it, man. You gotta get to that space where you got a problem. You're like, who has to solve this, or how do I have to figure out how to do it? Like it's almost a mindset of trying to attack problems.
Yeah.
All right. Besides yourself, name one person in your local network you'd highly recommend to other investors as a quality resource.
Chef Ma. I'm sure you guys both know him.
Yeah, Panda.
Yes. He's a great guy. He's in every space. If you want to get into the wholesaling space, please go talk to him. But he's been an amazing resource even for myself. And he's been able to help me in my journey also. And he's just a great guy to know. He's a very charismatic, very fun person to be around.
I was so honored. I was on their Facebook page, their group page for their networking group, and I was in the picture of the header. I'm like, yes, this is awesome.
Yeah, him and Ellie have a very good event, which we can. We have it on our. I believe we have it on our.
We do.
Our page, but we'll link to it directly in the show. And then also while we're on it too, like me and Ditron know each other from the Chicago multifamily meetup, another great one run by RJ and Zach Posey now. So link to that one as well. But
I will also plug myself. I do also have a short-term rental meetup.
Let's do it.
It's every third Thursday of the month. Currently at A&M Mortgage.
All right.
We gotta get that on the website.
Send us the link.
Yeah.
Just resources galore for you, listener.
Basically.
All right. Ditron, thank you so much. You have provided a ton of value to our listeners. How can they learn more about you? Is there any way they can provide value to you?
For learning more about me, you can contact me pretty easily through Instagram, through our website. Roam to Roam Spaces is our brand. So you're able to get in contact through me through there. And how to add value to me. If you own and operate commercial buildings, I would definitely, and you own a unit that you don't want to deal with, I would definitely take it on as another Airbnb of my own. So I'm always on the lookout for more units in the city on the north side.
Awesome.
All right. Good stuff. We got a Chicago fact here. Mark, who are we playing for?
Man, we're playing for Manuel Gonzalez, and we're actually sponsored today's Cost Seg Kev. So, Manuel, if myself or Ditron get this question right, you get $50 gift card brought to you by Cost Seg Kev.
All right. Well, we know the name is Roam to Rome, ROAM to the city Rome.
Yes.
Mark, how many miles is it from Chicago to Rome? And I'll give you your choices. And this is one I'd have no clue here. So, is it 3,400 miles, 4,800 miles, 6,500 miles, or 8,200 miles? How many miles from Chicago to Rome?
I'll go with 6,500.
All right. Ditron, what do you want to shoot for here?
I'll do 65 also.
No, go do something different that way.
For 40. Yeah, 40, 45, that would be B.
4,800. Yeah.
48.
All right. Hey, so good strategy there, Mark. Way to get the safety net in there because it's 4,800.
Ah. You want to know my thought process on that one?
Sponsors money. Give them every chance we can.
There's a Chinese restaurant right behind our office, and it's 8,000. It's called 8,001 or 8,003 or something like that. It's because it's 8,000 miles to their hometown in China. I'm like, take off a couple thousand, and it's a little further. Like, but I guess we can ask the question: which way around the map you going? Because that could have
true.
Shortest distance. Come on. We've done mileage questions before because you can make it anything you want.
We don't matter. Ditron got it right. So, Manuel, you get $50 gift card brought to you by Cost Seg Kev, man. And good job, Ditron. Thank you for saving my butt there. So, all right. Awesome show. Ditron, thanks for coming on. Tom, thank you as always. Listeners, you now have an opportunity to also be one of the benefactors of the Chicago Fact. Leave us a review on iTunes, Spotify, put your name in there. And every week we're reviewing those reviews and taking those and put them in the hat it's literally a hat that we pulled the Chicago Fact names from. So
sorting hat.
Yeah. It's I only wear it once in a while. It's weird. It all falls out. No, I'm joking. But leave us a review. That helps us. It helps us get more people finding us, help us get better ratings, helps us add value to more people. So, Tom, thank you as always. Ditron, thank you for coming on. Listeners, we'll see you next week.
Thanks all.
Later.